From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo. This is From the South. The United States' attempts to split Venezuela's armed forces have borne little result. The vast majority of the military remain loyal to the Constitution, as our correspondent reports.
Always loyal, never traitors. It's more than a slogan. It's a commitment to defend Venezuela. The military feel they've been underestimated.
We have never doubted our capacity, our determination to win. Because when we have right on our side, truth on our side, we are bound to win. There is no room for pessimism or doubt. We are convinced we will prevail because we are on the right side of history.
From the lowest ranks to the highest, these soldiers know exactly what they are doing.
We're going to defend our territory. Always loyal, never traitors.
We have just one objective, to defend our country.
We are absolutely firm about defending this country. And if we have to die for that, so be it.
On the 23rd of February, the supposed D-Day, the international media showed deserters as trophies. They even defended those who stole vehicles and ran over dozens of people. The Colombian authorities protected them. What in other parts of the world would have been called terrorism, here was rewarded. The end justified the means, never mind if they were dead or injured. Betrayal live on TV. There are reports of between 100 and 500 deserters. That's less than 1% of the 300,000 strong armed forces, without counting the 2 million in the militia.
As far as we're concerned, they were never soldiers. Being a soldier isn't just wearing a uniform. It is a series of principles and values, like patriotism and wish to defend Venezuela. So this doesn't worry us. There could be more of them. If they want to go, let them go. But the reality here in the armed forces is that there is cohesion and patriotism. If you go around the barracks, you'll feel the nationalist, patriotic spirit of the soldiers.
Many don't understand what is going on in the armed forces and why they haven't split. And that is what the PSUV leader, Diosdado Cabello, explained to Mexican journalist Luis Hernandez.
Yeah, we're banking on a split in the armed forces, because an invasion of Venezuela would cost the United States dearly. Not just in money, but in lives. So they needed an element of internal support, and the opposition can't give them that.
We are going to preserve the sovereignty of our country, comrades.
They are convinced they will stand firm. All the deserters have been stripped from their rank and expelled from the armed forces for treason.
And Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has met the President of the Russian Senate, Valentina Matviyenko, to discuss the situation in Venezuela. During the meeting, Matviyenko denounced attempts by the West to destabilize Venezuela's government, adding that the U.S. wants to do the same thing that in Libya and Iraq. The Russian legislator also gave Venezuela's vice president a declaration adopted by the Senate, demanding Venezuela's sovereignty be respected. For her part, Rodriguez reaffirmed her wish to expand relations with Russia.
We believe it is especially cynical on the part of the country's part that are represented as supporters of democracy in the world to try to overthrow the elected president and the government to designate an opposition politicians at the head of the country from abroad. All this has added to risk of intervention and should be regarded as a serious violation of international law and a serious violation of the United States.
Our correspondent in Moscow, Hansel Oro, tells us more about the meetings Rodriguez held during her visit to Russia.
Venezuela's Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, has met with several Russian officials during her visit to the country. First, she met with the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov. During a press conference after the meeting, Lavrov stressed the importance of supporting a dialogue in Venezuela and rejected any possible military interference, an option pushed by the United States. Lavrov warned that this could be the first of many other U.S. interventions in the region. Rodriguez also met with the President of the Russian Senate, Valentina Matviyenko, who gave Rodriguez a copy of the declaration, signed by the members of the Senate, and delivered to the United Nations and other international organizations to reaffirm their support for the Venezuelan president, Nicolás Maduro. Next month, the two countries are expected to meet again in a bilateral meeting to analyze several of the agreements signed between the two governments. As for this trip, Rodriguez said Venezuela and Russia since long have a close strategic relationship, but now their partnership has grown even stronger.
We thank Hansel for that report. In the last few minutes, the Venezuelan opposition lawmaker and self-proclaimed President Juan Guaidó has reportedly arrived at the Caracas airport. Opposition supporters have been gathering in the east of the capital to welcome him. Guaidó had called for protests across the country on the day he promised to return to Venezuela. Several European ambassadors went to the airport to meet him. The meeting between CARICOM and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has been postponed until further notice. CARICOM's chairman, along with the Prime Ministers of Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados, were expected to hold talks on Venezuela with Pompeo on Wednesday. However, the U.S. Embassy in Trinidad has informed that the meeting will not take place as planned. CARICOM leaders say they remain open to meeting with the U.S. as they continue to pursue a peaceful and sustainable outcome for Venezuela.
Over the past 2 months, and respect for human rights.
Meanwhile, in Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro inspected a large hotel complex in the state of Vargas. Maduro says cooperation between China and Venezuela have allowed the recovery of these hotel infrastructures. Through this strategic alliance, companies from China and Venezuela remodeled their facade and other areas of the touristic complex. Maduro says the work is intended to provide the people of Vargas and visitors with enjoyment and recreational of an international quality.
We are monitoring these structural works. The damage was serious because of the valley when we had not been able to develop a real recovery project. The old Sheraton and old Melia are two gigantic infrastructures that are going to produce a massive impact on the national and international tourism. We are building and taking advantage of the circumstances of a large convention center that we will have in Venezuela. According to the engineers and the company, structural cleaning of the works has been completed. Now comes all the construction part that are recovering with a goal November 2020.
And Venezuela's government continues to guarantee social protection by ensuring that food reaches people in the country's farthest regions. To date, more than 7 million tons of food have been distributed to the people of Venezuela. We have more in this report.
This is 23rd January Church. The parish is named after the date of the 1958 Venezuelan coup d'etat. It's also where the speculative market is being fought.
First, the neighbor unions, keeping neighbor unions, and above all, cheapen prices. As we know in the market, speculation is asphyxiating us, but thanks to these government benefits, people stay united. And of course with a harmony that has always characterized us, the Venezuelan people.
The day is a way of showing that you can buy basic food items for less than half the price they're usually sold for at traditional markets.
I feel grateful for the revolution that keeps giving these examples that we're not hungry, that we do have a blockage. Yes, but we are resisting, that we are fighting thanks to our president, Nicolás Maduro.
The food marketing and distribution plan is ongoing. It's the perfect answer to the economic oppression of imperialism.
This is the way to answer imperialism, to show that we do not want that fake humanitarian aid. For us, this is the real community food distribution system. And that didn't start today. We have already distributed more than 7 million tons of food to our people through these programs.
All this is an effort by the national government to ensure food security for millions of families.
The chief executive of the Brazilian mining company Vale has stepped down in the wake of the Brumadinho disaster that killed nearly 200 people. 3 other executives from Vale have also resigned, although the company says this is temporary. This comes 5 weeks after a dam run by the company ruptured. Over 120 people are still missing. A human rights delegation has warned of ongoing and worsening human rights violations in Colombia. The International Verification Mission visited 5 regions of the country and concluded the violations are the result of increased paramilitary presence, drug trafficking, and impunity. The delegation also expressed concern about the government's breach of the peace accord, the breakdown in talks with the ELN, and the killing of social leaders.
We know that the violations of the right to the community life projects, the blockades and the force of the right of free movement through the territory, secondary to increase of the paramilitary violence, the abuses of the public force, the dissidences of the guerrillas on the communities with the purpose of controlling the civilian population, to obstruct the process of humanitarian organization and to facilitate the plundering of land through violence. This critical situation is a responsibility of the state and constitutes an attack against the food sovereignty of the peoples.
2 migrants have been killed and another 6 were injured after being attacked by armed assailants in the Mexican state of Chiapas. The migrants, mostly Guatemalans, were traveling in 3 vehicles with 2 groups of armed men who were most likely human traffickers when they were attacked by unknown gunmen. Authorities have launched an investigation into the case, but the identities of the 2 deceased are still unknown. Those wounded will be sent back to Guatemala. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
We are present at every event where our nations are staring. We believe in a new global vision, united in every broadcasting. We keep expanding our horizons and working on a closer and better communication. Now, in Grenada, Telesur, the news source from South America and the Caribbean.
Welcome back. A quiet ceremony has taken place for Franco Macri, the father of Argentina's President Mauricio Macri, who passed away on Saturday at the age of 88. Franco Macri suffered from health complications for years. He migrated to Argentina from Italy as an 18-year-old engineer assistant and became one of the richest businessmen in South America. However, in recent years, he was implicated in a network of alleged bribes tied to both the economic and political spheres, cases that are under investigation. Hundreds of protesters have taken part in a vigil in Brazil in front of the prison where former President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva is being detained. They are demanding the release of the Workers' Party leader. Protesters, political leaders, and sympathizers began to gather after Lula returned to the prison in Curitiba following his grandson's funeral. During the funeral, the former president's followers announced what they call Lula's political imprisonment. And during Carnival, demonstrations were also held in support of Lula and the Venezuelan people. In the streets of Belo Horizonte, there were calls for freedom and sovereignty during a pro-Lula celebration. Persons also expressed solidarity with Venezuela's government, saying it's been the victim of the U.S. imperialism attacks. With the return of fascism to Brazil, represented by the far-right Bolsonaro government, prejudice against immigrants is on the rise. But a Carnival Bloco, founded by Sao Paulo's Indian migrant community, is breaking down barriers.
With the return of fascism to Brazil, represented by the far-right Bolsonaro government, prejudice against immigrants is on the rise. But a Carnival Bloco, founded by Sao Paulo's Indian immigrant community, is breaking down barriers.
When I came to Brazil first time, I saw many street festivals, the carnival here, and it reminded me of street festivals in India. You know, in India we have a great tradition of people going out on the streets, playing music, playing bateria and dancing and playing colors. So I got an idea of creating something similar in Brazil, and also to promote our culture, to reveal our Indian culture to Brazilian people, and also to mix Indian culture with the Brazilian culture, because we are migrants here, we live in this country, we love this country, and Brazilians love Indian culture.
With a drum group made up of university music students, the Bollywood Block mixes Brazilian percussion with Bagra pop music. And the parade is led by a group of Indian and Brazilian women who perform synchronized dance moves. The Bloco draws a crowd of all ages and socio-economic backgrounds.
It's been a long time since we dressed up for Carnival, and since we have this Indian team Bloco in Sao Paulo, we decided to throw our costumes together, and we are calling ourselves Mahatma and Robin, which in Portuguese sounds like Batman and Robin.
Founded in 2015, the Bollywood Bloco is getting more popular every year. This year, a local magazine named it as one of Sao Paulo's 10 best carnival bands. In a climate of growing xenophobia, this carnival group is breaking down barriers and fostering friendships.
This is a really good bloco because we Brazilians get to see a little of Indian culture, and it's really fun and happy, and it helps destroy prejudices against the immigrant community.
I love India.
Brian Mir, Telesur, São Paulo.
And the week-long celebrations in Rio have certainly kicked into high gear. Rio's samba schools were in full swing for Carnival as they paraded in a dazzling display of festivity at the Samba Drone. The competition between samba schools is fierce. A first-place result is bragging rights among Rio's mostly poor communities. And festivities are also underway in Uruguay. The satirical group Agárrate Catalina portrayed costumes which spoke to political and social issues. The traditional humor and musicality is characteristic of the country's popular theater group known as Murgas. And in Venezuela, thousands of families in the capital Caracas are enjoying the Carnival holidays in peace. Several events and cultural programs are taking place across the city and around the country. The government has assured that security personnel will be deployed at the national level to guarantee the safety of the Venezuelan people during the holidays. And in Portugal, revelers filled the streets of Torres Vedras, the home of the country's most famous carnival. The event featured floats with satirical depictions of world-renowned figures, among them U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. A figure of Cristiano Ronaldo, the country's most famous sportsman, also made an appearance. Men dressed as women, known as matrófonas, were also part of the traditional event.
Everyone participates in this carnival. It's a carnival for families. It's carnival with a lot of social satire and political satire. The Torres Vedras carnival is the most Portuguese carnival in Portugal.
It's special because we are different. It's a time to enjoy. There's no trouble amongst people. It's all very good, very good. I may be biased because I'm from Torres Vedras, but it's really good fun.
Bolivians took part in an Asian traditional to kick off Carnival, a blessing of the workplace and homes across the country. They asked Mother Earth for their sources of livelihood to be protected.
Indigenous priests and priestesses led a ritual to commemorate Mother Earth. During the ceremony, they burned incense, while in Aymara they thanked for what the earth has given them, hoping to have more for the rest of the year.
What we produce in our territories is celebrated with our culture, our food, our language, music and dances. All of this joy, that expression of joy, is felt when we share our culture.
The Chaya, or blessing of the workspaces, is an ancestral tradition. In public and private offices, the ritual took place on Friday. On Tuesday, the ceremony will be held at home with every family member dressed up and having alcohol.
Carnival is what unites us, despite our economic and ideological differences. We're a big family. It's our tradition. That's what Bolivia is known for. Let's toast so we can have a good year.
During the blessing of the presidential palace, President Evo Morales asked Mother Earth to strengthen the political underway. He also asked for public officers to commit so this request can come true.
Todos, todas. All, not only in Bolivia, but international organizations know that we are a better country than before. Why not do more efforts and work more for this?
The Chaya, or blessing, launches carnival celebrations. Here, the biggest expression of this celebration takes place in Oruro, with a parade of thousands of dancers and musicians that lasts for 18 hours.
Mexico's Popocatépetl volcano has unleashed a powerful explosion that lit up the sky in the evening on Saturday. Residents in the area were recommended to wear masks to protect from volcanic ashes and gases polluting the air, but no evacuation was issued. With almost 5,500 meters above sea level is Mexico's second highest mountain. Its name comes from the Aztec word for smoking mountain. No evacuation, stay with us. Welcome back. The train service between India and Pakistan has resumed its operations after tensions somewhat eased between the two neighbors. Trains started to run on the Indian side from Delhi to Attari and on the Pakistani side from Lahore to Vaga. The service was suspended on February 3rd due to escalating tensions after 40 Indian soldiers were killed in the disputed region of Kashmir. And India's Air Force chief has said they were not aware of the number of casualties after airstrikes targeted military camps in northwest Pakistan last Tuesday. Pakistan denied the existence of such camps.
Statement will be made by the government. No, I mean, Air Force is not in a position to clarify that how many people were inside at that way. We don't count human casualties. We count what targets have we hit or not hit.
Time, Savindra, please.
The bomb damage assessment that is done post a mission calculates the number of the target you've been hit or you've not been able to hit. We can't count how many people have died. That depends on how many people were there.
Kaja Kallas is set to become Estonia's first female prime minister after her Reform Party won the general election. According to the National Election Office, the Reform Party won with 29% of the vote, while the governing Center Party trailed in second place with 23%. Nearly a quarter of Estonia's 880,000 eligible voters casted their ballots by e-voting, giving the winning party an even higher score.
Estonian people supports our principles, our ideas, and our candidates did a very good job.
Massive protests continue in Algeria as its president confirmed he is running for a 5th term in office. Our correspondent Sergio Rodrigo has those details.
We're following the latest happening in Algeria. The president, Abdelaziz Bouteflika, has confirmed his bid for a 5th term in office. The announcement comes after 2 weeks of protests led by student movements to reject his nomination for election on April 18. In an official statement, Bouteflika confirmed his candidacy and said that if he's re-elected, he will lead a social reform and will create a national constituent assembly to write a new constitution. The draft constitution will then be put to a vote through a referendum. He also said that after the referendum, a new election will be called in which he will not contest. Algeria is one of the most significant countries in Africa and also one of the strongest economies on the continent, with its gas and oil trade.
We thank Sergio for that report. Hundreds of Yemeni women have marched in the capital Sana'a to demonstrate their willingness to fight alongside Houthi fighters against the Saudi-led military coalition. Yemen has been devastated by a 4-year war that erupted after Saudi Arabia and its allies launched a military campaign in 2015. It came after the Saudi-backed president was ousted by the Houthi fighters. The war has killed tens of thousands and left millions on the verge of starvation.
The message of the Yemeni woman is to stay in her land, and she will. The Yemeni woman is the mother of the men, the mother of the fighters and the martyrs. The Yemeni woman is the one that will stand against the aggression with all her steadfastness, her patience, and her pride.
And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And for our viewers in Africa, remember you can find us on SAT channel 461 in South Africa and channel 539 in Nigeria. We're on social media as well, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Stefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.